Hello and welcome to Lorebreakers. This is episode 1, Enter the Unknown. I'm Zach,
And I'm Mike.
and we'll be discussing cosmic horror today. Mike, give an overview.
All right. Well, just to start with, have a little chat about what amounts to cosmic horror. What would we call it? Cosmic horror is basically where it's not so much horror of an imminent threat you are confronted by. It's more the fear of the unknown. So the general idea of what you're looking at is if you haven't got a clue what you're looking at, if you're looking at some crazy amorphous horror that is, dredged its way out of the well during a lone starry night when a strange meteor storm rose down from on high, and it suddenly starts eating your pets and turns your neighbor into a strange slug man, then you're dealing with cosmic horror. Generally speaking, cosmic horror is it's placed on equivalence with probably its most famous writer at this point, which is Howard Phillips Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft, shout out.
Yep. Talking about his very, very famous at this point Cthulhu mythos. But he didn't call it that himself. He used to call it the what was the name he called for it? The Azathothery?
I don't know. We came up with like Muskaverse or something. Or let's be honest though.
Molluskverse.
Yeah, let's what was it? Daggerverse. Shout Dagon. My Dagon fans in the chat. Effing chat for Dagon. I mean, the biggest point I'd say we were talking beforehand was just how much is basically just fan fiction for the Cthulhu mythos.
I'm going to be honest, probably the majority of it. I know we probably are going to have a big stint here just talking about the Cthulhu mythos and whole, because you can't really address cosmic horror without talking about it to start with.
Oh, yeah.
It's more or less where the genre started. So, yeah, just to sort of start with, the majority of Howard Phillips's work at this point of Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos is effectively fan fiction at this point. I mean, true, Lovecraft did write a lot in his time, and a lot of it was, all of his short stories, which I'm sure most of us have read or tried to pick up and read at some point or another. But a large expands upon that from just those individual short stories has been brought in and expanded upon by authors that have taken his work and written about it and so on and added things to it over the years following his death. The King in Yellow, the Dreamlands.
Most of the gods that exist past Cthulhu, Dagon, and all that.
Yeah, basically the majority of it past Cthulhu, Dagon, Azathoth, that kind of thing, all brought in and expanded upon. The great race of Yith, I believe, was mentioned in his works, but we only really learned a great deal about it later on, at the Mountains of Madness, for example.
Yeah.
But and then beyond that, we only really got any descriptions of places like earlier and so on once other people started writing about it.
Is that the Great City?
Yeah, that's the great city where Cthulhu slumbers, ready to drown the world in his madness. And
Yeah, just making sure because I'm familiar with overviews of the Cthulhu mythos, and I'll be honest, there's a few times I've been like, okay, actually explain what the fuck does that mean?
So yeah, just you can't. It's effectively the baseline masterclass on cosmic horror. Chances are, if Lovecraft or someone relating to his works has done it, you probably are dealing with that, and that's the kind of thing we're looking at. Cosmic horror is when you're dealing with a threat that you cannot within your mind understand, when you cannot comprehend the threat that it currently exists. The idea about true cosmic horror is that this threat in of itself. Like you yourself cannot confront it. You cannot fight Cthulhu. You can try, but you won't succeed.
You ever played the Xbox Cthulhu game?
No.
In it, you actually, I think, shoot rockets at Cthulhu himself and like nuke him.
You see, that's a great example of when you don't do cosmic horror. Like the Magica game, which included Cthulhu. He wants to fire a lightning bolt at Cthulhu's face and make him go back to sleep. Just it's like that scene from the Avengers. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Just punch Cthulhu and maybe eventually he'll go away. But no.
One punch Thanos. Go to sleep.
It's just one of those things where sadly, if you do true cosmic horror, you never get to punch Cthulhu in the face. You never get to vanquish Cthulhu. You never get to banish him to a far realm from which he will never emerge. You never get to send him back to the nth dimension. It's the idea with Cthulhu is. Or by extension, all cosmic horror, is that you're
the
best,
unknown.
Yeah, it's not just it's the fear of the unknown, but it's also the fear of engaging in a threat beyond any comprehension. To understand a villain of cosmic horror is to go insane, and your best bet of surviving a cosmic horror encounter isn't to vanquish the threat and send it back to where it came from. It's to hide under your bed, throw your covers over your head, and pray that whatever is out there doesn't take notice of you enough to step on you.
Yeah, so that's the overview. I'd say, besides Cthulhu's works, what notable stuff have you actually read or engaged with? Because we talked about Bloodborne, once again, before we started recording, as well as general just stuff that toes the line with Cthulhu imagery, as well as, I've mentioned, I've seen a few of the video games, and generally comes up in music a lot, because it's an easy thing to try and explain with music, the idea of Lovecraft, because it is a formless, shapeless medium that you have to interpret some way.
In terms of, actually, I'm going to take a sidestep there on the whole reading part. I'm actually going to go straight to gaming. Probably a very interesting one with cosmic horror, which I really enjoyed. You ever played the Amnesia games?
What's the one that everyone played?
The Dark Descent is probably the one you're thinking of.
I think I played that and a bit of, is it March of the Pigs?
I think it's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, am I thinking of a fucking Nine Inch Nails song?
Is it like a feast? I don't
Some
know.
Pigs. The one after the one
the Amnesia
plays.
games. But the idea is that when you first encounter these monstrosities that are beneath the village, it's sort of like you haven't got a clue what you're dealing with, and your best bet is to avoid them as best you can. But on top of that, it's not just run away from the scary monster. It's to the point where what you're surrounded by is so horrifying and beyond what you would normally encounter that even the darkness itself becomes a crippling weapon against your sanity.
Oh yeah,
and that you literally have to hide in the light. And
I played Eternal Darkness. That's Cthulhu to some degree.
I mean,
sanity. It just went sanity meter. It was like first one came to my fucking head.
I mean, like just tabletop role playing games. World of Darkness, wonderful example of cosmic horror if it's done correctly. I mean, that's
Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah,
it's right. The Delta Green, the spin-off.
I know, but you asked me not to talk about Cthulhu. But yeah, the Call of Cthulhu tabletop role-playing game. It's like tabletop role-playing, an absolute incredible means of doing cosmic horror, because DMs love messing with the minds of their players and having it so that your characters, using sort of like vague and sort of unsettling descriptions of things around you is a wonderful way to mess with both the minds.
Why don't we just use the biggest one that we both enjoy, 40k? Let's be honest, like Chaos Gods are Cthulhu-esque nonsense to some degree. To some degree,
yeah. I mean, probably say there are some forms of the way they act. Probably a good way of exempling it is the warp itself.
Yeah.
And demons. Certain authors do it a bit more bluntly than others.
I mean, Zinch.
Yeah.
That is
games.
That is right.
It's a very good example. Sort of like the Changer of Ways, the inception of monstrous mutations, tentacles, many-eyed things,
the labyrinth.
And lost insane knowledge. Sort of the mental, and with 40k there are. Some people do it differently to others in terms of the cosmic horror side of things, but you can very easily develop a really interesting story there. The idea that what you're sort of like a normal human being thrust into an encounter with demons and warp apparitions and monstrosities.
I'm trying to remember. There's one of the books that start with like a civilian POV as a demon invasion happens.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about. I know it sounds familiar, but I can't think of the book off the top of my head.
I'll have to do research. We'll probably come up when we talk about the 40k episode. Like that was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back to it in the 40k episode. But absolutely, like the 40k gives us a lot of detail on the actual physical manifestations of chaos. But in that you can say that in of itself takes away a bit from the idea of the cosmic horror. But if you write it from the perspective of a layman, the guy that knows nothing about what he's dealing with, you can still get an incredible cosmic horror story out of it. The idea that of someone hiding in pipes and crawling through crevices, trying to evade the many-eyed things that are working their way through the hive tunnels, or going through the depths of a ship, flying through the warp, the screams of demons, the faces pushing through metal plates, eyes staring at you from the darkness. It's
the never-ending hunger for blood, the never-ending lust to fuck, to snort, to do anything like that. The rot of Nurgle.
Yeah, like you can create really interesting stories out of it, and yeah, it can very easily be brought into cosmic horror by including a few tweaks. And to get onto sort of get onto the topic, what causes a good cosmic horror, um, it's very much the case of, I mean, you can you want to talk about this a lot, is how do you
the cult aspect.
yeah, like how do you encounter and deal with the threat? How is it confronted to you beyond just the dark shape moving through the stars?
Let's try. I'm trying to recall because I haven't read Shadows over Innsmouth in a hot minute.
Yeah.
But I'd probably say you start with that. Is like, I think the most common one is that it is like most start off as some sort of noir detective story to some degree, because it's the easiest way to kind of, they're already looking for clues or anything like that to get someone hooked in. I'd say the first aspect is the aspect of the story is probably where you start. How does they get the ball rolling to get the hook in, as it were, to find the tentacle?
It's the innocent introduction, sort of the honest. It's sort of the, how do you get your main character into a position where they're suddenly dealing with something that is beyond their understanding. As at the detective story, great way to get into it.
Yeah.
Great way to make a start of it. There's a murder. There's a missing child. There's
investigating a village.
Even something as simple as lost livestock. I mean, there's plenty of ways you can introduce someone to it.
How about an account? Someone gets sent to look at some accounting books, and they just follow a paper trail, and you go to a dock to investigate. It's like, oh shit, they're murdering people.
Yeah.
Wait, why have they gone altar and all wearing fishman costume? See what I mean?
I mean, yeah, you could very easily rolling it off to the other. One strand leads to another, and suddenly the dock man's got far too many eyes, or the fisherman's wife is wearing bandages over her face to hide the scales, and it's all
It's got 7 fingers.
Yeah, so. There's a lot. You by no means have. It's actually better if you don't just dive in head first into the tentacles and just sort of literally worm your way in to the point. I mean, very often than not, you can actually start your story with not intending it to be, or not overtly showing that's your intention.
Yeah,
start off as a normal detective story.
The hidden hand is better, isn't it, for this type of story?
I mean, it's a very interesting thing when what you think you're reading is a standard detective story, and then the next thing you know, tentacles, or
all right, hentai, calm down. Right, someone's definitely in the anime crack.
Listen, we're talking about anime. We're going to be talking about anime, but we're not talking about anime right now.
Nice catch.
Yeah, very funny. But still, it's all it's all good fun, and I love a good cosmic horror. So there's nothing I would enjoy more than just picking up a book and finding out halfway through that the Lord Mayor's made a deal with an eldritch god to sacrifice three virgins every summer, and provide his village with bountiful fish and crops, and grant the village great fertility and so on. There's plenty of reasons why your average far out out in the Hicks village would want to make a deal with an eldritch being. I mean, life is difficult out there, so anything that can make that a little bit easier.
I think it's better if you have a city setting, because you can kind of tie it in with, say, corporate corruption and being, people at the top. Are they lizard people? Are they? Not to go to Alex Jones on this, but
everyone's heard the joke that the Queen is a lizard. I know what you mean.
Like, I feel like it's just good. You could have world building, because you can build it from the start. There is conspiracies in this world, and you kind of go, well, if that one's right, what part of this other world does it also have? Because it's just, okay, so you've confirmed, I don't know, Amazon's Jeff Bezos is in fact a merfolk Dagon follower. Okay, does that mean every Amazon warehouse out there has its own Dagon shrine?
All the managers are secretly half human, half fish people, sacrifice their livelihoods and lifestyles.
In order to get that Amazon Prime delivery on time, they've got to sacrifice so much. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Cthulhu and Sons delivery service coming to a city near you.
What was it? It's called Amazon Prime.
Oh,
whatever it's pronunciation.
Azathoth Prime.
Yeah, but you see what I mean? Like, that's a good. I think that'd be a good point, because like you mentioned World of Darkness. When I ran the campaigns for that stuff, I'd kind of like build it and be like, "Fuck it, the tallest skyscraper, somewhere on that top 5 to 10 levels, there is a cult going on because it's
The
high
walls
enough.
have eyes.
It's high enough that no one can fucking see into it,
Yeah.
and it can just be public. Like, yeah, you need to be like the highest of access to get to this point, like CEO shit. Like, I think that's just
You could actually, you could
an,
work that off.
an unexplored area.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like, it's, you could easily play into the job of the evil corporation, but, I mean, there's a reason why it works. I mean, a lot of, even modern day, it fits into real life. A lot of corporations do tend to have corruptive practices, and then, it provides a little bit of escapism. The idea that there is actually a cruel, vindictive, and monstrous reason as to why they're doing these things. And, just having... Well, you can have plenty of ways to interact with it. Something as simple as a disgruntled employee wanting to go and visit his manager, only to find that only to find a hidden door within his manager's office after wanting to issue a complaint or throw his notice into his face. You could have it so that someone is going to, an investigator for health and safety violations looks a little bit too deeply into a particular warehouse or into a manufacturing plant or goes to visit an office building, or even just a local politician trying to make a name for themselves, standing up to the local big business who currently, who owns all the local councilmen, wanting to, go and face the CEO and give him a piece of her mind.
Oh yeah.
Only to find out that he was waiting for her all along, and she was just the next victim. She was going to be the next victim in a long line of previous bright-eyed idealists. There's a lot of ways you can go for it to get in the hook, to drag it in. And you're right, city settings do give you a lot of ways of building that story up and making it a little bit more unique.
It also means you don't have people in robes running about, because I feel that's a bit too... Like,
Cliche.
I love, like, the idea of robe running, like, cultists, but I feel like that's better saved for, like, druid, like, encounters, or, like, actual, like, medieval Satanist type of shit.
Mysticisms, basically, like that.
Yeah, because Cthulhu's... I mean, fucking hell, that is a one. Cthulhu really isn't mysticism as it is kind of... Oh, fucking hell, someone's going to get me fucking roasted in the comments. It feels more science-based, if you get what I mean, in terms of... Normally there's a hint of the outer unknown, something you're trying to quantify, as opposed to... Because we have magic systems we can kind of explain, to be like, oh yeah, that's just the MP, that's like the magic points, the so on and so forth, you draw from spirit or key energy or whatever, as opposed to, what do you drain to get summon Cthulhu? Like, what's the otherworldly entity thing you can tap into?
Yeah, it's like X plus Y equals Cthulhu.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the idea of cosmic horror is the lack of understanding, or perhaps maybe even just the helplessness aspect of it. The idea that human minds can try and quantify it. They can try and place it into terms they understand and means they can come to terms with, but you just can't in the end.
That's what I mean. It's more science based because there's more that you try to understand, even though it's impossible to. Well, I think the mystic side to it is more just you kind of accept it's magic as a quantity is just, okay, it's just magic, it exists. Well, Cthulhu's more like a thing you want to try and process. That's what I mean, it's more science-based than, say, mysticism.
I see what you mean. So to a degree, there's a difference between trying to quantify the mystic horror and then going insane as a result of that,
Yeah.
as opposed to just accepting that this is something crazy. Let's just run with it and see what happens.
Yeah, like...
And this is just magic.
Because magic is just a thing that if you think about it, in universe, the fuck is actually magic? Like, how do you draw upon this unknown thing? And then most times, it's like, oh yeah, you do that thing, you just like, okay, I've done it. As opposed to Cthulhu, it's like, okay, but you're meant to questioning Cthulhu. That is the thing I like the most. Is like I think that's why it's drawn so much detective stories. It's an easy way that, like we said before, hook people in.
Yeah, there's a trail to follow to get to the monstrosity. Sort of, you have to look in and like just to get back to the cult very briefly for a minute. You often find that with the cult, they're obviously more often than not the cliche is they're trying to summon the eldritch thing, the monstrosity, the cosmic being. You often, very often they're trying to acquire it through certain means. Sacrifice X number of virgins, read Z number of rites, and perform Y ritual ritual.
You've been on that fucking Cthulhu crack too long that you're throwing wires into random sentences.
Wiley coyote wacko. Sacrificing rabbits. But no, I shouldn't mock that. But just the idea that their end goal is to achieve is to earn the notice of this cosmic being, and the detective side is good because it gives you a means of working of investigating who are these people. Because I think what's very disappointing in many ways is when you just write off the cultists as just a bunch of crazy people from the woods, when in reality, if you take time to expand and it's true though, you take time to expand and look into the reasons why these people have gone down this road. What led them to following this particular path to the point where they want to summon this cosmic being. It's more interesting because you can see the mental breakdown point as they tried to search for an answer, and that answer slowly drove them insane. And you could even have I think, what is it? A good example is just sort of like the detective begins to he begins to lose his mind the closer he gets to the answers. I mean, he can still call them, a bunch of mad bastards. I mean, I think we see some similar stuff in Resident Evil Village. Still
haven't played that.
I know, but it is a good game. As when one of the villains tries to recruit the main character into helping him. We're gonna this is how we all got here, but understand that I'm trapped here as much as you are, and everyone else is trying to achieve this crazy goal because they're all trapped. But if you and me work together, we can overthrow this crazy evil monstrosity. And don't you want to help me do this and gain all this power? It's like, nah, man, you're still just insane.
I feel like Resident Evil 4 did it better. Once again, I haven't played Village, but the entire idea of the unknown Cthulhu nonsense. I mean, at the end, it's like, it was Wesker all along trying to get the virus, and Umbrella and Jack Kruger have a knife fight. I feel like the start of the first half, where it is just you get to the village and these random Spaniards are just frothing at the mouth, crazy. I think that was probably a better use of Cthulhu-esque mythos or world building to hook someone in, as opposed to Village, where at the start, because my main problem with the stuff I've seen from Village is it feels a bit too, what would be the word? It knows its tropes, and it's, what would be the word, lampshaded them.
I think to a degree, yeah. The thing is with cosmic horror though is you're kind of forced to rely upon tropes in many cases. I mean, Treasure an author that is able to ignore those tropes and write something amazing, because they're rare and far between, and usually they can produce something excellent. But there's nothing wrong with
there's nothing wrong with tropes. It just feels like they acknowledge that it is a trope as opposed to working into to feel seamless, it's actually
as opposed to the tropes are here to establish what you're dealing with.
Yeah,
and then but this is what we've made.
So
that builds on that.
We mentioned the detective before. Everyone's in the head's probably thinking hard boiled, wears a suit, has the brown overcoat with maybe a fedora, fucking some top.
The Sherlock Holmes guy.
The American 1930s, has a bottle of whiskey.
The LA Noir.
Yeah, as opposed to just, I don't know, guy in suit, has a perfectly normal family, does his job, go home, just part of the police force. That's what I say, constable. Fucking hell, that's way outdated terminology.
I mean, for the people that dealt, Shadow over Innsmouth for what we were dealing at the time. I don't think the language is that outdated, but I get where you're coming from.
Oh, I meant as a general, when you think detective, there's two ways. There's Sherlock Holmes, and then there's the noir, I tell you what, I'll take a whiskey to go smoke a cigar, and then goes and starts having a fucking boxing match with the main villain.
Yeah, the guy with the hit flask, and the guy with the hit flask, the fine the dirty cigarettes, and just I know what you mean.
Someone I'd fit in Dick Tracy.
Yeah, basically. Honestly, I do enjoy those stories, but I think you could really work on it I think you could really have a lot of success if you work. I mean, to be fair, cosmic horror isn't locked in. It's not it's not like monster horror or Anything.
I don't know. I think once you reveal your hand that you're a cosmic horror, you're kind of trapped in that setting.
I think in terms of when you're trapped in what you're dealing with, yes. But in terms of the setting you're working with, I don't think so. I think a lot of it might take some work. I know you're trapped into things like the crazy cult and so on, the crazy cult, the eldritch monstrosity, and the mystic rituals. You can argue that you're very much trapped in using those things. You're not always. You can make it work elsewhere, but you don't necessarily have to run with the with the lost fishing village or the isolated cult group. I think you could really work it in other ideas to bring it in. I mean, I would love to see a cosmic cyberpunk setting.
I mean, the hard part with that one would be it's more just everything. I think it's called Doom Eternal. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
You're not. I would probably say no. You're not. I would probably say no.
I'm not. I'm in the right ballpark. I'm not in the right zone.
It uses a lot of the tropes, but at the same time, Doom Eternal is not cosmic horror.
No, but like you get what I'm saying. Like that's probably the closest thing you'll have to a proper cyberpunk like cosmic horror, just for the sense of all the technology is futuristic, and you have like all the neon glowing and all that.
Well, I know we do have examples of what I would probably describe as. Would I describe it as cosmic horror? No, but it gets close. What was the name of that really old video game where it's like a ship AI gone rogue?
Oh, System Shock.
Yeah, that's the one. I think that's probably a decent example of it. Of what I would like to see, because it doesn't have to be some crazy tentacle monster from the future. A mad computer virus that
is that Terminator though?
It's not getting.
Come on, that's Terminator.
If the Terminators didn't exist and it was just Skynet flying through, Ultron style through the internet, corrupting. Honestly though,
I get what you're saying.
Corrupting systems and manipulate and sending mysterious messages to people, or trying to get in contact with. The idea of a machine of a virus gone that has gained sentience.
Would you count 2001: A Space Odyssey a cosmic horror then, or just a sci-fi horror?
Excellent question.
Because that's basically System Shock, isn't it?
You see, here's me trying to remember Space Odyssey now.
It's Hal. Hey Dave. I can't do that voice, but it's
hello, Dave.
Yeah, that.
I'm afraid I can't do that. Dave.
That's way more feminine than the voice actually is. But
I know,
but
but
you're more right than me.
I got the tone right.
Yeah.
But excellent question. I would probably say it's sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
Because if we learned by the end of it that Hal wasn't just on the ship, when we learned that that Hal was if we found out that Hal had suffered some severe damage and it had spread itself out as corrupted code, not just to his ship but other ships, and that Hal was just the corrupted incarnation of an actual wider spread machine virus.
You want me to pull a plot twist here? Pull the rug out from under your feet?
Go for it.
The monolith, I'd say, is more cosmic horror than anything in that movie has any right to be. Because it shows, because I might be misremembering this, but it shows up at the end when the guy's on his fucking deathbed and it's just there. And then he goes through
the monolith.
It's at the start with all the monkeys and it's like the black, just obelisk tower.
I think you might be onto something. I'll be honest, I haven't seen it.
Because it shows up at the end. It's been a while since I've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey 2, but then you go through that entire warpy fucking core sequence and you got like the baby fetus in space.
Yeah.
Because you're in the right zone. Is that when you mentioned like the Hal thing? I'm like, that's sci-fi horror as opposed to the cosmic stuff you were chatting.
Yeah.
I say chatting like you chatting shit, but you get what I mean. Oh, I say chatting shit, like chatting like
you are within
shit.
me throwing something. You are the distance of me throwing something at you.
Bring it, bro.
But no, once again, it shows how long it's been since I've watched that.
Yeah.
But, honestly, yeah, you can have cosmic elements and use it to feed into other forms of horror. It's like saying you're by no means as I think a lot of people think that you're restricted with cosmic horror into where you can use it, but very much the case of
All right, sorry to cut you off again, but hear me out. So we watched a movie for Halloween, around Halloween.
Yeah.
Where I don't know if you remember this. At the start of the movie, all the teenagers have forgotten a certain well-known serial killer, and they all treat it as this big mystery. You remember now I'm talking about?
I remember what you're talking about.
So, would you consider that entire build-up to him revealing himself and the whole kind of mystery aspect cosmic horror in nature, not on purpose.
In truth, I would definitely say there are elements of cosmic horror in that.
Yeah.
I know which one. I mean, you're welcome to name it, but
No. I just wanted to say that to see how long it take you to click what I was talking
No,
about. It's
I
Freddy
clicked- I
versus
cl-
Jason for
yeah,
people.
It's Freddy versus Jason. There are definitely, especially on the Freddy side of things, definitely elements of cosmic horror. The idea is that he's only got power when people remember who he is and people are afraid of him. That
I guess he's an inverse of Cthulhu.
Oh, well, to a degree, he still has power, but the idea is that when people know about him, that's when he's dangerous.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of where it stops. The fact that is Freddy's powerlessness when no one takes notice of him. He's like a pixie from. He's like he's like
Tinkerbell.
He's basically
Tinkerbell.
He's basically Tinkerbell gone wrong. The
Oh,
idea
God.
is that if no one believes in him, he doesn't have any power. But
He's the guy that chats shit and hopes everyone gives him attention.
kind of, yeah. But that's
The Virgin Freddy, the Chad Jason.
I'm just imagining Freddy Krueger now in a Tinkerbell dress. That's a disturbing thought.
Whoosh.
But no, like definitely there's a line where it stops with Freddy with Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
But the idea that knowledge about him is what's dangerous, as opposed, he himself is dangerous, but he only becomes a threat to you if you learn about him and believe in him.
Yeah.
That is very. I do think that's very much
In the spirit.
It's in spirit of cosmic horror. It's sort of it's using an aspect of that form of horror and bringing it into.
I don't think it was
tradition.
intentional. I think it's
No.
just it's an overlap of horror.
It's an overlap of genre, but it's a very clever mechanic, and I like it. If it turned out that Freddy had ascended to obviously Freddy is the god of horror, but effectively, like, if you found out that like Freddy was somewhere else and there were people trying to bring him back forcefully by spreading knowledge of him,
like Freddy versus Jason.
but no, I mean like if like it's like very similar that knowledge of him is dangerous,
Yeah.
but like it would be more cosmic horror if
I'll bring another horror movie into this that you
Go
can
on.
use as an example. The Child's Play series, aka the Chucky movie franchise.
yeah.
There is a movie called The Cult of Chucky. Oh god, I don't want to get down that one, but
No.
yeah, that movie's so it's good, but it's at the same time because there
Yeah.
is an actual cult bringing Chucky back, and now there's like several different Chuckies.
I think the difference is that the point where it gets into cosmic horror sort of get to the point of what I was trying to get with the
Yeah.
Freddy thing. The important fact is 2 points. One is that what you're dealing with has to have a power beyond what you could ever hope to deal.
Comprehend. Yeah.
It's beyond whatever you could hope to deal with. The idea is that there is no good big enough, there is no spell mighty enough, there is no sword sharp enough that will be able to wound this thing, that will be able to stop this thing conventionally. The idea is that nothing you do will stop this creature, will defeat this creature, will banish it.
There's no training montage to beat
Basically,
Cthulhu.
yeah, there is no training montage that will beat Cthulhu.
Oh,
But-
there is, but you have to be another elder entity yourself. Yo, that's a subject for another day, genre bending.
Yeah. The idea is, one, that this being has to be beyond anything you can deal with, and the second is that the way that is effectively that you don't defeat the creature at the end of with cosmic horror. You don't banish it. You basically either stop whatever's trying to invoke it, or
Learn
you,
to live with it.
that, or you basically dodge it, like.
I'll go cuckoo.
Another good example of something that uses aspects of cosmic horror, but I wouldn't personally consider a cosmic horror film, is The Thing. I don't know if you've ever seen it, the classic horror.
Oh yeah, I'd say that's cosmic horror. That's definitely it. It's more horror.
It's very close. It's very close. The only thing I think that I stops it being like a masterclass of actual cosmic horror is the fact that the thing can be defeated in the end. I know there's another movie where it turns out that it actually escaped the facility and so on.
Oh, that's not another movie. That's a comic. That's not really canon.
The idea is that you can
Yeah.
still kill the thing. You can set it, a shotgun to the face will kill it and its host. You can set it on fire and so on. But
I reckon it could be cosmic horror because it itself isn't the elder entity. It's just a servant of it. You could argue to bring it back in. You get what I mean? Like you can't kill Cthulhu.
I'll be honest. I don't have enough knowledge of the thing to debate the real diehard fans of that. I
will.
The thing.
I will. The thing died, but both those guys treat each other as if they were the thing. There you go. Take the bait. Bait.
But in truth, yeah, it comes very close, and it is a really good example of what you can produce with it. Honestly, yeah. But and it's a good example of doing something a bit unique with it. There's no crazy cult that's worshipping the thing. There's no mystical ritual to summon it. It's just this strange, metamorphizing. Strange.
It's an alien that can shapeshift.
Thank you. When I remember how to pronounce that word properly. But it's this crazy alien that can change shape and goes around murdering people that no one understands it, and it has powers beyond their understanding. And then there's not much else to say on that, really.
You know one I thought of that we didn't bring up?
Shoot.
Kaijus. Kaijus are
they're
similar
close.
in nature.
They're close. It's close because at the end of the day, Cthulhu fits a lot of the kaiju tropes. He's a giant monster that can destroy things
and cannot be killed by conventional weaponry.
The issue with so my problem with kaiju as opposed to cosmic horror is that effectively you see kaiju stomping around in public. The idea, if Godzilla goes into a city, he's gone there to destroy that city.
We also have an idea how most kaijus are formed too, because it's normally nuclear waste, nuclear testing.
They're defined by
Godzilla.
human terms.
Yeah,
they can be defined by human terms.
As much as Godzilla versus fucking King Ghidorah was fucking trying to be like rewind. Godzilla existed before time and has this ancient shrine where you can go and rest and get fucking like Dragon Ball Z power up or some bullshit.
It's still though that it's still a being that can be defined by human terms and is shown that it can exist within the human. It can be quantified within the human brain. The issue if I'm trying to think of something similar.
I'll argue this way. You try and think of it is King Ghidorah himself in that movie is said to be from outer space, so he could be an elder horror by some degree.
If there were some very good aspects of that movie which I think could be taken out and expanded upon in their own thing, like the idea that Ghidorah I think once you had Ghidorah frozen in ice and you had them actually studying him, and the idea that humans themselves had to intervene to awaken him, I think by that point you've sort of you've brought him down to a point where I know that kind of feels weird because you have like the crazy cult trying to awaken the Eldritch God, but the difference is that Ghidorah seems to be in a position where he cannot awaken by himself, whereas Cthulhu could awaken at any given time. It's just people are trying to speed up the process.
Like Godzilla, because they have to go and summon Godzilla.
They do, but once again, Godzilla is he exists within human terms and human scales. If there was
tangible,
if for example you had a kaiju movie where there was some eldritch beast that had found something of use on Earth, I don't know.
There is. I just can't remember the movie's fucking name.
But sort of like it, you don't even have to describe it. Actually, it's better if you don't describe what it wants. It just arrives and then starts burrowing itself into the earth. This great space actually reaching down from the heavens, and you don't so much defeat it as the cast survive its existence and manage to preserve some element of humanity at the end of it, and in the end the creature just buggers off and goes off wherever, does whatever it wants. And you have to deal with and then you have to deal with some various aspects of this creature, like tendrils split off from it and start searching for life forms across the planet, and you have to evade those, and this thing has other life forms living on it that swarm down through cities and forests and villages, and and they are like the fog, or like is it like the Stephen King?
The fog, the one where they're trapped in the mall.
Yeah, the one where they're trapped in the mall.
Oh, supermarket. Sorry.
Yeah. Sort of similar to that, where the fog itself isn't the main threat. It's all the things that happen to come along with it that start killing people. It just happens to exist at the same time. You can have stuff like that which melds cosmic horror and traditional horror, but at the same time though, it's like you still got the idea of the eldritch being.
That's it. It's Gamera. One of his is he fights a space, like, I can't really describe it, like, crab monster. Here's the poster, so you can have a look.
Giant space crab.
It's called
monster.
Legion, and and if I remember correctly, it does come from fucking space, and it is just. I never rewatched the Gamma series.
Okay.
I've talked to people that do, but that one feels like it's like Gamma series fighting definitely an eldritch horror, something to do with that nature.
An eldritch horror, yes. Cosmic horror, no. So it's called. Okay, we call it cosmic horror because the majority of things of monsters within this genre come from space, because it's the easiest place to grab. It's the easiest place to find something that humans cannot understand. And if you want to find something that exists that is completely beyond anything humans couldn't comprehend, then chances are, space is probably the easiest place to look. It's the final frontier.
Wrong franchise.
Wrong franchise. But at the same time, though, like, it can work. But you can make it work for other things. I mean, let's be honest here. Everyone has seen The Mummy. You could honestly though.
Which one?
Honestly though, like, you could work something very similar and still invent cosmic horror. Having a crazy old mummy come back to life. That I think the. Weird enough, I'm going to reach into Indiana Jones of all places here for this.
Crystal Skull.
Yeah, though Crystal Skull, like with the alien things, have it. You can have it so that do a Daniel Jackson and have it so the pyramids were built by aliens. And
well, that isn't that like a typical thing? Is like what was it? Cosmic astronauts or something like that.
You can have it so like an ancient being had chosen to bury itself beneath the pyramids, and something awoke it, and now the cast has to deal with this eldritch being trying to slowly come back to life, or and so they have to sort of escape it.
To jump off that point, are you saying Alien versus Predator is a cosmic horror movie?
You know it's not.
Hold up.
You are reaching.
Ancient astronauts come down, form the Aztec pyramids, put the alien queen there, and at the end of the movie, they have to escape that same place.
Yeah, but cosmic horror doesn't involve fighting a shit ton of mini Cthulhu's.
Well, it also is killable, but you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying in that the setting is very similar. But
the way you described that, I was like, oh, this motherfucker's gonna hate me. Yeah.
I don't, but it's just. But no, like it has a similar setting, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah. No, it's like it was just like the way you described
it.
That's
like, monster horror.
I know, but it's like the way you described that. Then I'm like, that is pretty much plot for plot detail of like the movie Alien versus Predator 1.
That's kind of the thing about cosmic horror. It's the reason why it's so difficult to do. The thing is, a lot of people set out to create cosmic horror because it's mystifying almost. It's got a lot of charm to it. It's romanticized almost. Everyone loves that. Everyone loves H.P. Lovecraft. But
I wouldn't say that as a fact.
Well, the guy himself was a bit of a scumbag, but in terms of his work, a lot of people romanticize it and love it for what it is, and it's true. Like H.P. Lovecraft's work and the expansions upon that work done by other authors is incredible, and it's probably one of the most easy to pick up, difficult to master and come to grips with horror settings and and fantasy universes that you can actually pick up and use. But the problem with cosmic horror is it's very easy to shoot for it and miss, because
I get what he's saying. It's easy to go, look, it's Cthulhu, as opposed to, is that Cthulhu?
The minute you show us Cthulhu's face, it's gone. That's the problem. The minute you place the monstrosity you're dealing with, the threat of cosmic horror within the minute you throw him, the minute you throw his picture throw his picture in a frame and hang it on a wall, you lose the grip of cosmic horror.
I love the idea that's in a Cthulhu-esque story. There is just a picture of Cthulhu doing the thumbs up, keep it up, champ. But no, to debate that last point, Is it the Sinking City or the Call of Cthulhu game that came out a few years ago where one of the endings is you are strapped in chains and forced to look upon Cthulhu and then the game ends?
That's kind of the thing, though. That's sort of the important bit, is that you're not supposed to be able to look at Cthulhu. That is why it doesn't really debunk my point to give that as an example. The idea is to look upon Cthulhu is to go mad.
Oh no, it wasn't that. It's just like you said, second he actually shows up, it's the end of it. Like, it's just you've lost the identity of him. I'm like, no, if he shows up and the thing still continues, I think that's where it kind of loses a bit. But
you are right. The idea is that if you are able to confront, to look at, to see this threat, if it's placed before you, and you are able to withstand its presence, the ability to observe this thing, and you being able to withstand it and continue to act with agency that is your own, that's when you lose cosmic horror. Because that's the problem. The threat is by the minute you've endured its very presence, it is something that mankind can deal with, and it's something that mankind can comprehend. Therefore, it's not a cosmic threat.
Here's one. What about a cosmic horror story where we send robots in to deal with it, to analyze and go into, like, say, the Sinking City if it was somehow possible? How is that for a fucking...
I think there is absolutely no problem at all with using that. The idea that... Actually, I think it could be quite interesting. The idea that... Imagine this, right? Imagine this. So you've got an Independence Day style event where you've detected this entity approaching Earth. Now, you have a variety... obviously, the government wants to keep it quiet, but a great black spot has appeared in the heavens where the stars themselves seem to go out. It's the presence of this thing so vast that it obscures the stars themselves in the night sky. Now, there are some people, religious, who take this as a sign of the world coming to an end. In truth, they're correct. But then you sort of have, almost like Shin Godzilla, you have the variety of approaches to it. You have those that are trying to be proactive, and you have those that are like, we should just hope this thing draws past us because we cannot fight it.
What about use Berserk instead? Because that's pretty much like when they, like the, I forgot, the God Hands show up. They're pretty much cosmic horror, but...
Cosmic horror inspired, definitely. Yeah. But it's an example. But it's a good example of where you go for it and you miss. But...
I wouldn't say they were cosmic horror. I was trying to say the way they go about is cosmic horror. Like, they show up and most people can't... they just get killed. The demons get them. You get the mark of sacrifice on you. I forget, how familiar are you with Berserk lore?
I know a bit, yeah.
Yeah, because I power read that after R.I.P. the author died last year. And I'd say a lot of you've described is definitely inspired by Cthulhu, a lot of, especially the hellscapeness. And that kind of goes back to Bloodborne because that's inspired by Berserk, and same with Dark Souls, Demon Souls. And I don't know, I think, me personally, I think stories inspired by cosmic horror are more interesting by cosmic horror itself, because I feel like there's just, as I mentioned before, there's too many cliches. But they're just not cliches I'm into, I'll be honest.
That's fair. Like, I'm going to be honest, like, with cosmic horror, it can be it can be an acquired taste. Everyone loves to be entertained, and that's kind of why it's so easy to sort of go for it and slightly not get it, and and end up with something else, because people love to see monsters. People love to fight monsters. Yeah, people love to read stories about people dealing with horrific things and then winning in the end. No one likes it. No one likes it when the monster wins in the end. Well, some people do, but you know what I mean. The majority of people don't think the best result is the monster winning at the end. But with Cthulhu, with cosmic horror in of itself, the heroes may win, but they don't defeat the monster.
Yeah, they stop it, but they don't stop it.
It's like in terms of like they stop mankind being wiped out, but they don't stop the monster.
They stop the monster from coming. How about that?
They stop the threat from descending. Just sort of get back to that idea I was sort of peddling. You could have it so that there are, scientists want to be proactive. The military guys just want to shoot it. The science guys want to study it. But then there's a group of officials who believe that because the current current understanding is that this thing will not hit Earth; it will pass by it.
Yeah.
But it will come very, very close, and there will be detrimental effects. But mankind will survive. That's not a problem. So as things are now, we should be okay, right? But the thing is, the military guys want to shoot it because they think there's a chance it'll, they think it'll just turn and rear its head at us, and they want to be proactive. The scientist guys send a bunch of machines out to study it because anyone that stirs at because the Hubble Space Telescope has captured images of this thing, but all the scientists that were observing the telescope at the time went mad upon observing it. So they want to send robots that are able to take readings of this thing and actually give us some understanding of what this thing is. So they agree. They launch the machines and they fly in, and they go out and they inspect this thing. But the problem is that one of the scientists has been influenced by this by these new age religious groups, because religious groups always crop up whenever the stars go out, because people try and get their own answers for things they don't understand. And so he has one of the robots crash into the flank of this thing, effectively stab it in the eye. He pokes the beast, he pokes the dragon.
Yeah.
And because of this, the readings they got, useless. It's complete gibberish. But because one of those machines poked the dragon, the beast turns its head towards Earth.
Yeah.
And it shifts. At that exact moment, it shifts and starts coming towards Earth. In that minute, what they're dealing with, at that moment, humanity has two options. One is they're going to get wiped out. Two, they have to, you can even have this done very, very quickly, very, very quickly, to get that out of the way, because the true cosmic horror stuff only comes later, which is when, as this thing gets closer to Earth, it starts affecting things. It starts causing things to go awry.
Yeah.
Its many eyes start appearing on reflective surfaces and driving.
Sky goes from blue to green or something.
Something like that. Yeah. It starts driving people mad, and the cultists start showing up more often. And so you have these scientists trying to use the last drone in orbit to jab it on the other side to make it return to its original course. Now, whether they're successful or not, leave a complete mystery. Have it so the story ends when the cult learn of their existence and begins hunting them, but because you can have them be these horrific aberrations where they've started carving things into their flesh and they're leaking blood and pus as they walk, and and as the scientists start being picked off as they try and get to the launch, to the facility that would send the command to have this drone crash, they start being hunted by this cult. They start getting picked off one by one, and eventually the last two manage to enter the commands, and they manage to enter the commands to the drone, and that's it. And then as this happens, suddenly the machines go dead. All of the windows, because it's like it's got like an observation rooms around it and so on. All of them start illuminating up with pinpricks of light. The cultists, all their eyes start glowing and show they've been there the whole time watching them. And then that's it. Then it cuts out, and that's the end of the movie. You never find out the answer if mankind survives or not.
I'm going to keep the same premise up to a certain point, which is when the machines look upon Cthulhu, mankind looking through the machine's eyes doesn't get affected. But to go back to that, what you were trying to say about System Shock, what if the program can't actually handle, its understanding of data, not AI, just the understanding of the data cannot comprehend it, and it short circuits, and when they come back, that infects the whole world with a virus. So the cosmic horror itself did nothing to hurt us. In fact, it's us looking upon it that caused the entire self-destruction part.
Yeah, honestly, I think that would probably work even better. In truth, I probably missed it the minute I mentioned that mankind could affect this thing to change its course. When I said that, I probably
You mean when the monster actually shows up?
No, you can have its presence exist. The idea is that, even at the end of the Call of Cthulhu, Cthulhu appears. And
like I said, it's been a hot minute since I've read that.
I know, but you know what I mean. You can have the beast exist, but the problem is that being able to have it exist within a realm where mankind can comprehend it and understand it, that's where it kind of, when it can be quantified, that's when it's lost. And in truth, when I mentioned that, and it's probably how easy it is to mess it up, having it where the drone redirects the monstrosity towards Earth, even then I probably missed, because by that point you're having it be something where mankind can affect this beast in some way.
But it's also too, how does it know we did it? I mean, it's an elder entity. You can just say it's like, well, it's not meant to know. It just knows.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that's a big point. They'd be like,
by that point, you don't. I mean, like, to a degree, you don't have to understand it, but I know where you're coming from. It's
I feel like that'd be a thing people would, like, in CinemaSin style go, oh, how did they figure out it was Earth? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But but you know, you don't really have to. The idea is, I mean, with the cosmic horror, you don't explain everything.
I mean, we are just talking subjects. We're not actually writing a book.
No, we're not.
I know, but it is one of those things you got to kind of keep in your mind.
Yeah, in before someone writes a book with this premise, like,
copyright.
We're coming for you, boy.
We're coming for you. Trademark.
We're coming for you.
But now, like, I think there's loads of aspects that you could do cosmic horror, but people focus mainly on, say, the Lovecraft monster.
Even we've done it here, like. That's kind of the idea. That's kind of the idea is that it's quite difficult to just focus on. It's difficult to draw original ideas from, because at the end of the day, it's easy to just come back to many eyes and tentacles.
Well, that's one of the things that I mentioned before. I thought The Thing did right is that you don't have the elder entity itself show up. You have one of its servants show up, because that's malleable. But then we just kind of go, wait. This was the lowest part of the totem pole, and it took all of humanity joining together to stop it. Looks to the sky. What the fuck is out there? And then just kind of have that be like, fade to black, and just have like a monster murder in the background, like some shit, I don't know if that's going to be picked up by the fucking mic or not.
Turn the gain up. I know what you mean.
Post-production note here. I'm just going to put a whale noise or some shit to distort the fuck out of it.
But that's kind of the idea of cosmic horror. At the end of the day, with all the monsters and all the and all the cults and all the rituals and all the blood and all the death and all the madness
and the sex,
the idea of cosmic horror at the end of the day is there are plenty of different kinds of horror that make you sit up awake in bed at night, that make you be afraid of the shadows in the corner of the room, that make you afraid to look under your bed. But the idea of cosmic horror is that it's meant to make you look into the sky at night, to look at the stars and feel like there is something out there that you don't understand, and that scares you. Yeah. That's what cosmic horror is.
I get that. I just wish they had more interesting ways to try and solve that thing. But I feel like we'll just be talking in circles at this point. So I've been Zach.
And I've been Mike.
And this is the first episode of Lorebreakers. Catch you later.